Such a beautiful morning. I've just been sitting here watching the sunrise. It was pretty overcast, but still the colours and the light are just stunning. I think often having clouds in the sky makes the sunrise even more interesting. So yeah, just such a beautiful morning. Had such a nice time just sitting here, reflecting on January, taking a time lapse and recording an audio message. Very cool. G'day, I'm Mike. Might be mad, I might be mystic, I might be both. I'm curious to find out the answer. I am turning my life into a science experiment. The hypothesis is that I can gain control of my life by letting go of control of my life. So I'm aware that it's a paradox and it may end up being both true and false. It's really following the mantra of filling my heart with love, being authentic and having nothing to fear. It's working out what being authentic actually means, working out who actually am I, what is the purpose of my life, why am I here? So yeah, it's a curious experiment and exploration of life. And I'm sitting on the beach on the south coast of New South Wales in Australia, taking a time lapse on a very overcast morning where I don't think there's going to be much of a sunrise. But still, it's beautiful to be here. The birds flying around, the sounds of the ocean. Yeah, stillness of the morning. I'm also reflecting on January of 2026, which has been a massive transformation month for me. All of my life, I've had some sort of home base in Sydney, and during January, I let go of that. I sold the property that I had. I gave away everything that doesn't fit inside my campervan, and I have become nomadic, fully nomadic. There's no storage. Yeah, it is all just in my campervan, which is a big deal for me. I know it's probably not for a lot of people, but it's a massive deal for me. It's really the culmination of probably a 20-year transformation. So in my mid-30s, married, 2 young kids, corporate job with a big IT company, nice house in the suburbs. I guess, all the external indicators suggesting living the dream, but I was not at peace with myself. It didn't feel authentic, and I felt like there was something not true about what I was doing, wasn't being true to myself. My children are now both young adults in their early 20s, living their lives. My marriage came to an end. So, all the external indicators suggest I've turned my life upside down and become a homeless solo old man. But I'm so at peace, and so it feels so much more authentic, and it feels so much more truthful. And so, yeah, I'm much, much happier and contented in this life. And it is about exploring what it means to be true and what it means to be authentic. And it doesn't mean that who knows what the future has and where I'll end up. But right now, this definitely feels like the right place to be, which is on the road with no plan and no agenda, and just following the flow of energy and seeing where it takes me, allowing myself to explore just every moment. Every moment is a moment where we get to decide what to do with my energy. And I've spent far too much of my life wasting energy being fearful about the future, having all this energy go into fear about what the future may or may not do, such that I was missing being present to what was happening in front of me and around me, and being able to use my energy in a positive way to contribute to whoever I'm with. It does seem like the purpose of life is just love. It seemed like a cliche when I was younger and sort of a nice idea that I nodded my head and smiled to. But now it seems like the truth. It seems like, yes, there is no more than this moment. In terms of how did I get here, I have been influenced by a couple of books by a guy named Michael A. Singer. One of the books is The Untethered Soul and the other is The Surrender Experiment. And what I took from them is this idea of being like water and just letting your life flow, not trying to resist, being aware, being in tune, looking for the signs and the guidance. I do believe there is this higher intelligence that exists and that it does help to sort of guide and navigate and direct. And it's just being in tune and being aware of your instincts and not necessarily falling into the trap of doing what everyone else expects you to do. I am still an individual. We as an individual are like an instance of a wave. And so we are unique and we are here for a short period of time and we, have this moment of rolling in and being a presence and crashing into the shore. And then we recede back into the ocean. So we are also part of something bigger and deeper. And I do believe in reincarnation and I do believe in this life is not the only life, but it is a very precious gift and it is a unique experience and it's an opportunity to help life evolve and to experience joy and all of the full emotions of life and sadness and heartbreak and love and laughter and passion. The other big inspirations for me are Buddha at the Gas Pump, which is interviews with spiritually awakening people done by Rick Archer and supported by his wife Irene. And there's been some amazing interviews and so much I've gained out of that, so much that's just been on point at the right time to help guide me. And it's via Rick that I came across Peace Pilgrim. He mentioned Peace Pilgrim, which was this lady that just started walking around the US and literally had just the shirt on her back and would just be supported by people giving her stuff. I love her energy and presence and absolute madness. Ability to just not conform and to just be who she is in a completely beautiful and inspiring way. And so she's definitely a hero. And so, it's been this big 20-year transformational journey that culminated in me letting go of property ownership and letting go of most of my material possessions and fitting my life into a campervan. Some beautiful highlights from the actual month of January, having sort of given you the context. I started the year at the amazing Woodford Folk Festival. And just again, an amazing experience. It's such a beautiful place.
I listen to your heartbeat. 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 Listen to your heartbeat.
I hadn't realized that the founder, a guy named Bill, had died a few weeks before the festival started. And so there was a video honoring Bill, and it was so powerful. I guess that recognition that we're all going to die. Life is short. We're all going to die. What are we going to make with this life? What are we all going to do with our precious gift that we've been given, this thing called life? And so Bill chose to set up this Woodford Folk Festival. And I'm so pleased that he did. It's an amazing gift. It's an experience that can't be described. You have to go and be a part of it. And it's not for everyone, but I think anyone that's open-minded and compassionate and creative and curious and interested to see what life could be like when we live beautifully. And yeah, it's such an open-hearted place. And so grateful for Bill for doing that, and for everyone else involved. Obviously not just Bill, but it takes someone to, well, it takes lots of individuals to ignite the spark in their heart to be passionate and just do what they want to do. And he obviously found his calling and set it up. And the fact that it's got this 500-year plan, I love it. It's a great place, a 500-year plan for how the place is going to continue. And of course, the actual 500-year plan has a whole bunch of things that you can do now in this moment. So yeah, that opening ceremony, just that sense of being a part of this very special community in this very special place, this gathering, this bringing together of beautiful energy. And so for me, the vibe was set from that opening ceremony. And so the next highlight that comes to mind was the Prayers for Peace concert on the hill at sunset one evening, and run by Tenzin and some Tibetan Buddhists. And it was just beautiful, just 5 instruments, people that had come together that had probably never met, and Tenzin reciting some Buddhist philosophies on life. And I was sitting there just absolutely absorbed in that moment. And it was like the words, it was like the divine was speaking directly to me when Tenzin was talking. And I was just in the most blissful state, looking out over this beautiful scenic landscape with the sun poking out from behind the clouds from time to time as it was setting, and just the words and the music. And it was such a spiritual moment. I just complete confirmation that I was in the right place and on the right journey. And this one black cockatoo came squawking and flying over and flying off into the sunset. It was just perfect moment. So that was incredibly powerful for me. It's hard to describe, but it was just one of those moments when you're just aware of the beauty of life and my place in it. Amazing. And then the next highlight that comes to mind is I got quite involved in Qigong, and that was on most mornings at 6:30 a.m. on the top of the hill, which was beautiful. But there was one morning where it was a bit later in the morning. It was down on the village green, and off in the distance in the chai tent was a guy called Bobby Alou. And so I'm doing this Qigong exercise of bringing in the loving energy and pulling it into your heart and just sort of cycling through this. And off in the distance, I can hear Bobby is singing, and he's got the crowd singing, and they're all singing about, I couldn't love you more, or I love you more, or something. I can't remember exactly the words, but it was about more love. And the audience is singing along, and at the same time, I'm pulling all of this loving energy from the universe and drawing it into my heart. And just as the exercise comes to an end, the song finishes and the crowd's clapping and cheering. And it was just this perfect moment of synchronicity just for me, of all of the love of the universe and the celebration of it. And it was so amazing and so delightful. just incredible. And I explained it to the teacher afterwards. She was so excited as well. And she actually knows Bobby, so she was going to go and talk to Bobby about it as well, which is very cool. So that was a beautiful highlight. And then probably the last highlight was many little moments. It was really all on New Year's Day. And it was just moving through the festival space and just following the flow of energy. And I discovered the Spooky Men's Choral, um, which is a bunch of blokes just with beautiful voices, just be very Monty Python, just this crazy sense of humor, but also very beautiful. And so I end up being a part of, they wanted to set a new record for the Manserena, which is just this crazy song that they had. And so I think the previous record was 200 people doing the Manserena, and we got 240 people doing the Manserena, and I was a part of it. And it was just this stupid madness and fun and humor. And yeah, it's so delightful that, I had no idea what I was doing. And then it sort of suddenly popped up. And then 15 minutes later, I was there and part of it. And yeah, I love that. So I love that flow. And then I also did a beautiful experience called, what was it called? Happy People, Happy Planet, Happy New Year, run by a lady called Robin Clayfield, who has a permaculture connection. And I have lots of permaculture connections, which is so beautiful, such an interesting part of my life. But yeah, that was an incredible experience. There were several moments of that when we were sort of all walking around in a circle and we'd just bump into somebody and you would just have this heart-to-heart connection with this person. And we did it 3 times, 3 different people, and it was sort of exploring elements of 2025. So, things that were highlights, things that were challenged, things that we wanted to learn and grow from. And so that was an incredible experience to be having those little moments of connection. And then we all held hands and formed this big line. And we had this snaking line that walked into the middle of this circle and triangle. And it was like we formed this moving yin yang symbol. We're holding hands and forming this line. And so we walk into this middle of the circle and go past this sort of altar in the middle of the circle and then turn around it and snake back, passing out. And so as we're walking in, we walk face to face by the people walking out. And it's just this incredible exchange of energy of meeting people as they come in and out. And there was one person in particular that she and I we were on the same page. It was just this incredible exchange of energy and smile. And so walked past her once, and then there was the second time we walked past and she just winked at me, and it was just this wink that said, yeah, you've got it. I've got it. We know it. Life is just the beauty of every moment and the energy that you can bring and the connection you can feel with people. I was just on a high from that, and I'd been up all night. I'd not slept. I did an all-nighter on New Year's Eve, and so I was completely recharged by that whole experience. And then I was keen to go and see the finals of the band comp at Woodford, which is these bands that are just thrown together. People just are thrown into these groups, randomly selected. And so they had the band comp finals, and I'd only really discovered by a chance encounter by having a coffee with someone at the coffee van, and they had mentioned that they were in a band and they were in the finals. And so I went to see, and the finals are incredible. The songs are just amazing. And so again, I was on a high from that. And then I was just drawn by the sunset, and I moved up to the sunset, and then it was just beautiful watching the sunset. And then I was moving down, and I had one of these moments where I was at a junction where I could go either left or right. And I just sort of paused and I just sort of waited for guidance. And I just felt drawn to go to the right. And then I bumped into Emily, who was my camping neighbor, who I felt a lovely vibe with. And so we connected and we went and watched the closing ceremony together, which was just beautiful to be able to share it with someone, and a nice, lovely energy from Emily. And this closing ceremony, they had this, people were sort of made this caterpillar. And so this caterpillar was walking around, and then the pieces of the caterpillar were brought together to form a cocoon. And then the cocoon was hung up, and then it was set fire to, and there was this incredible burst of energy and transformation, and the heat from the fire of this cocoon as it burnt. And then this beautiful butterfly emerged. And that was one of the themes of Woodford, was this butterfly and this idea of we are the universe witnessing itself, which has been a theme through some books and things I've been reading and podcasts I've been listening to. And so that was just incredible. It's exactly the transformation that I've been going through. And so to be a part of that and to have that particular moment was just amazing. So cool. And so that was the start to my new year, to be at Woodford and to have all of that experience and to have all of that just energy and validation, and such a beautiful place. Someone described it to me as Disneyland for adults, because it's just so creative and there's so much diversity and interest, and everyone has a different experience, but every experience is just amazing and incredible. And my experience was amazing and incredible. And so that was the perfect way to start the year. And then I made my journey back. I knew I had sold my property, and I knew I had till the end of January, the 28th of January, to get rid of everything that I'd had on the property. And so most of January was spent doing that. But the journey back was interesting because I stopped and visited friends in Brisbane and the Gold Coast and the Central Coast. And so there were some beautiful moments of connecting with different people, which was lovely. And so that journey took a few days, and I sort of landed back at my property and started that process of cleaning up. And I met the new owner who came and visited, and we walked around the property and worked out what he wanted to keep and what he wanted me to get rid of. And it was sort of a mixed thing. I was pleased. There were some things he was happy to keep, and then there's a lot of stuff that he wanted me to get rid of. And so it was quite a big job getting rid of it. And it was quite, I guess, stressful at times. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of unknowing. There was a lot of how am I going to do this? And it really came down to the very last day and the very last moment. Even the morning of the 28th, I had no idea how I was going to get rid of some stuff, but it all came together beautifully. And I'm not at all surprised. And I gave away a heap of stuff, and it went to some beautiful new homes. And even the process of giving stuff away was fantastic, and I loved it. And just the people I met, some of them lifelong friends, and then some people I'd just never met that just turned up and became new friends. And, even people that once they heard my story were saying, well, come and stay with us anytime. And this is people I just met. And it's just so beautiful. I love that. And so, the bulk of January was spent downsizing, letting go of my property, moving my life into a van. So everything, all of my material possessions are now in a van. Anything that didn't fit in the van, I gave away. And so I'm excited for that. I'm excited for this journeying into the unknown, this great unknown that is the future. And I'm trying to be open to it and allow it to guide me and see where life will take me, see who I am and what it means. And so it was a beautiful experience saying goodbye to my property. I spent so much time. That was the other highlight of January. I just treasured the time I had out at my property, my ex-property, my old property. it was such a beautiful place, such a nurturing place. And so to just savor it, I really enjoyed that. That was the highlight of January, to have that time just being in the beauty of nature and so many special moments. And then saying goodbye to it, and then saying goodbye to Sydney, and then saying goodbye. Having my beautiful family and friends come and visit the property was amazing and such a highlight. To have my kids come, to have my best friend, my brother. And so that's just beautiful. And then to say goodbye to Sydney. And then here I am on the road. It started really, it was sort of February 1 that it really started. So January really was that process of letting go and saying goodbye to Sydney. And so I think that's a good point to pause. I'm watching a guy's just caught a wave. Oh, and he's come off it. So yeah, life is beautiful and amazing. I'm going to go for a bit of a walk on the beach and see where it takes me and enjoy this beautiful light. See ya.